Good afternoon. I'm still reporting on the coup. Beth and I just interviewed crusading Sheriff Richard Mack of Arizona today. His message is that the federal government has gotten so powerful and so disdainful of the law of the land that only sheriffs standing on their constitutional authority can break up the tyrannical hold that the feds are trying to impose on the United States of America. This is Sheriff Mack, and where are you right now?
Well, I'm actually traveling with my family, and so we're in California right now, but I'm from Gilbert, Arizona.
That's what I thought. I thought I remembered Arizona. And how long were you a sheriff, and when did you stop being a sheriff?
Uh, yeah, that's a good one there. I was in law enforcement 20 years, and then I was sheriff, the elected sheriff, for 8 years. And of course, during that time, my calling card issue, of course, is that I sued the federal government and won a landmark decision at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yes, yes. I'd like to know more about that, but I have to say it is really a crying shame in this country that you had to do that.
Oh, that's a very good point. That's really a great perspective because the federal government had no authority to be doing what they were doing, but they don't care. There's nobody that ever stops them. There's nobody that ever gets in their way. So they just do whatever they want. And it just has created this horrible Washington, D.C. corruption and dictatorship.
Exactly. That's very well said. Tell us a little more about that case. How did that come about?
Well, actually, this is a highlighted version of the case,
Mhm.
and it fits right in your shirt pocket. And you can see the title there, and these are available on my website, CSPAorg. Every American should keep these with them everywhere they go, and they should make a point. Every one of you should make a point to hand one of these to your sheriff, to your chief of police, to your city council, to your county commissioners, to your county attorney, and let them see what the Supreme Court said in June of 1997.
Wow.
And this came about because the federal government promulgated legislation known as the Brady Bill, named after James Brady, who was shot during the assassination attempt on Reagan in March of 1981. Well, so they spent 10, 15 years uh, trying to get this legislation going, exploiting his injuries as their poster child for this whole cause. Well, the Brady Bill was billed, it was advertised as a waiting period and a background check. And yes, those were involved. But the big problem with it is they wanted to force the sheriffs of America to enforce this idiocy for them. Okay, I'll just say what it was. It was a gun control scheme, and they threatened the sheriffs of this country. If you don't enforce this for us, you're facing a year in prison, a $10,000 fine, or both. And so, and how many sheriffs just went along because, oh, well, this is the federal government. They're supreme. And I said they have no authority to tell any sheriff what to do or any other public official in Arizona or any other state. I filed lawsuit on February 28, 1994, the very day the Brady Bill took effect. And luckily, and well, thank goodness, thank God, that 6 other sheriffs joined me in this lawsuit. And Sheriff Prince from Montana and I ended up at the Supreme Court together on this case in December of 1996. And then the ruling we won in June of 97. I lost my third election just a couple of months before we were in the Supreme Court. And it was because of this case. It became too controversial. People said, we don't want an activist sheriff. We just want a sheriff. And if I had won at the Supreme Court and then had my election, I probably would have been reelected. But, you know, my wife put it in great perspective. She says, we weren't looking for a job when we landed this one. And you have to know we're moving on to where the good Lord wants us to go. And since that time, I've written 8 books. These
Wow.
are some of my books, and everybody needs to get that one, of course. The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope, The
Yeah.
Proper Role of Law Enforcement. Well, that's me when I was a rookie cop. And then and these books are such valuable tools for freedom. And then again, everyone should get these. Look, I don't make anything off of this. It costs $2. You can get 3 for $5. This is the most powerful 10th Amendment state sovereignty case in the history of America. And Scalia wrote the decision, and he quoted an excerpt from New York v. US that he said, "We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction." And then he went on to so many different things. He quotes the Constitution, he quotes the Founding Fathers, he quotes the Federalist Papers. And what he did, he just took us through a history lesson to prove that the federal government is not our boss.
And what the basis of all this is the founding fathers wanted power deconsolidated to the maximum extent,
Exactly.
which was practical. And that's
Mhm.
why they created the 3 different branches of government. So they would compete and tend to make it so that no one branch could get too powerful. They were determined to eliminate the power of tyranny because they'd just gone through that. So
Correct.
that's the essence of all this.
And this,
Well, their intent was just as you said, to make sure that the abuses of King George III were never repeated. And then so they divided power and they added checks and balances. And now get this quote. He quotes Federalist Paper 51, and I'm quoting, "Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people," what you were just alluding to. Now get this part. "The different governments will control each other." And so that's exactly what the states are supposed to be doing. And now we at the CSPOA have just issued a press release saying that we are asking the governors and attorneys general and the sheriffs of this country to investigate illegal immigration into this country and to investigate the public officials, especially in Washington, D.C., that have aided and abetted and actually wittingly participated in this treasonous activity of bringing millions and millions of terrorists, cartels, criminals of all sorts, and that these people did not walk here. They were brought here, they were paid to be here, and now they're registering them to vote.
Right.
And so this is absolutely a criminal activity. And what do we know? That the federal government is not going to correct itself or to investigate itself, and the states and the counties and the sheriffs and AGs and governors have got to run with this, pick up this mantle and run with it so that we can make sure that these crooks and corrupt politicians in Washington, D.C. are held accountable. And that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, I was about to say that this borders on treasonous activity, but you took it the extra step further for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
they're trying to destroy this country. That's all there is to it, and they're doing a great job of it.
they're doing a real good job of it.
Of course, you're talking about the 10th Amendment, but tell me again, your organization, we'll have a link to the website, but I want people to understand what the organization is and what those call letters stand for.
Okay, very good. CSPOA stands for Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Now, people get afraid of that because, oh, I'm not a cop and I'm not a former cop, I'm not a sheriff. Every one of you, every citizen of this country can join our CSPOA posse, and we ask you to do that. That's how we keep going. That's how we're funded. It's only $11 a month to become a member. And if you don't like what we're doing, quit. But folks, to be honest with you, this is the only peaceful and effective solution we have left. And I could give you story after story of sheriffs who have stood up against the COVID mandates, against gun control, and against tyranny and abuse. And folks, we need you part of the solution. If we, the people, are not part of the solution, we're not going to win this, and it will not stay peaceful. If you're involved with your sheriff, we train every Wednesday. We train our posse members, such as you and anybody else, and we train you how to work with your sheriff and to get him to form a posse. If he doesn't already have one, we want you to join his posse, and we prepare you with our CSPA posse to do just that. Join us at CSPOA.org.
CSPOA.org.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, we'll display that in letters underneath you.
And tell all your groups, please, everyone, all your supporters, everybody on this program right now, join us in this holy cause of liberty, as Patrick Henry called it. If we're not a part of the solution, then how are we going to solve this?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the feds are already well underway of running us over.
Yeah.
Well, there's a huge overreach, and it just reminds me of the situation we have with the elections, which is the state
Well,
legislature.
Beth, I'm glad you said that, because this is known as the Overreach case. We sued on the Overreach. It was gun control. We didn't sue on the Second Amendment. We had no standing on the Second Amendment, but we did on the 10th. And the 10th is so powerful, and we need to exercise the 10th Amendment. And it's our failure to exercise and enforce the 10th that has allowed the Washington, D.C. to become the monster, the Frankenstein that we have created.
And I think part of the is that people sitting back, not knowing what to do, but not doing anything, and in some cases getting in the way of people who are trying to do something. It's like
Amen. And folks, you can join us and be part of the battle for freedom. And we can keep this peaceful if we're all involved in working with our sheriffs.
Now, what do you see as the result of Trump returning to office in next January?
I believe as soon as they announce that he is the next president, that there will be widespread violence all across America.
And that's why the Chinese and that's why the Venezuelans. Yeah.
They didn't come here to play tiddlywinks. And there's also international terrorist groups of the tens of thousands that have also come in. And we know that through intel sources. And folks, this is not pretty. And the threat to America is from our own federal government. They brought these people in intentionally.
You know, as I saw this develop and saw them opening the borders, I went, no, they couldn't possibly actually be wanting them to vote. I mean, we wouldn't stand for that, would we? Here at the end, that's exactly what this whole thing has been all about. And I just can't believe it that this has happened to this country.
They were willing to sacrifice the security of America for their own political monopoly. And right now, so much is going on with that. They actually are now, this is in the news, in the mainstream news, that Mayorkas has funneled FEMA money to illegal immigration.
Exactly right.
And so that's why he went to Congress and said, we need more money, right?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. No, the illegals, they put what?
And so, just so you know, we also already have a sheriff that has done a criminal investigation on Mayorkas.
Oh,
and
good.
we're just waiting for that to be referred to his county attorney.
Oh, good. Well, I hope
Yeah, so folks, we're not messing around here at the CSPOA, and we've got to have your help. If you want this to continue, if we want to work with the sheriffs and AGs and governors across the country to make these investigations happen, please join us. Please join the cause of liberty here.
And I think what a lot of people don't recognize is the power a sheriff has. He's not just another elected official. If you could go into that.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, if you look at the history of the sheriff, it makes it very clear that, of course, he has been the ultimate authority. Jefferson called him the top executor of the law in every county. And that's 240 years ago. But the sheriff is called the Clio, the chief law enforcement officer in this case. In this case, and in the Brady Bill itself, they said that the Clios of America shall do these ministerial duties regarding the Brady Bill. Well, the Clio is the sheriff. They brought this to us, to sheriffs, and they called us the Clios. And right here in this decision, top corner right here,
Yep.
Clios, it means the chief law enforcement officer. So we have it documented in this Supreme Court case that we are the Clios. But the most important part of why he's the Clio is because he is the only elected law enforcement officer anywhere in this country. And absolutely the only one in the county. He reports only to the power source and is appointed by we the people, the ultimate power in America.
Now, how about the big wigs at the Justice Department and FBI? Wouldn't they think that they're above a common sheriff?
Well, we have too much evidence that they know we are. And like Sheriff Brad Rogers kicked the FDA out of his county when they were harassing an Amish farmer because he didn't pasteurize his milk.
Oh,
And I had a confrontation with the EPA and Army Corps of Engineers because they said that we couldn't fix a bridge, and the county said we're going to fix the bridge, and the county supervisors, and they threatened to arrest the county supervisors and the maintenance workers. And I told them, you're not arresting anybody in my county, and if you try to arrest anybody, I will arrest you.
oh.
Well, guess what they did? They left town the next morning.
Good for you. Good.
So there's a lot of cases like that.
Yeah.
So sheriffs have much more power than the average person knows, and even fellow
Right.
sheriffs sometimes don't realize it or don't want to try to take advantage of it.
They don't know why they take an oath of office. They don't know what the oath of office means. And that's what we do at the CSPA. We provide the training because most of these sheriffs are good people. And we believe honestly that if you put the right information in front of the right people, they'll do the right thing. And we're starting to see that come to fruition.
How many sheriffs do you have on board right now?
Well, it always varies, and it's really hard. It's like herding cats, keeping track of 3,086 sheriffs in America. But I believe we have a strong nucleus of about 250 sheriffs, maybe 300. But we really need a third of all the sheriffs on board. And that's where we, the people, come in. The constituents, your sheriff's constituents, his people, you have got to contact him and tell him what you want him to do. You're his only boss. You're his only supervisor. He needs to hear from you, and you, the people, must have a working relationship with him because he is the most powerful law enforcement and chief executive of every county. He is the ultimate protector and conservator of the peace. You've got to be working with him.
Have you made any headway within typically Democrat areas that elect sheriffs?
Yes, to be honest with you, there are a few, and they've been to our meetings. The reason is most of those that have really reached out to us are along the border. So it's really them being so frustrated with the federal government of allowing all these criminals into their counties. And those sheriffs doesn't matter what party they are, they've seen what's going on and they're ashamed of their own party, and they have indeed gotten involved with us.
Yeah.
It's not enough, but they are starting to see the light. Some of them are starting to see the light.
Gosh, I don't know how it could get worse, but I guess it can.
Yeah, every time we say that, it does.
I think it would be very helpful for the people to know whether the person running for the office of sheriff is in support of you or not, because
Exactly. And that comes up. I had a reporter from Detroit News call me and said, every sheriff race is talking about constitutional sheriffs. That's why you need to go to these meetings when sheriff candidates are running and ask them, are you a constitutional sheriff? Don't ask them if they're involved with me. Ask them if they are a constitutional sheriff. Because I don't care if they're a member of CSPA. I care if the people of this country are members and then they work with their sheriffs. Because I don't want dues or money or memberships to get in the way of what the sheriff does. And there's been some sheriffs that have joined us and then did nothing that was a constitutional sheriff requirement. And they said, well, are you a constitutional sheriff during campaign? They go, oh, yes, I'm a member of the CSPOA. And they, what have you done? And he's done nothing. So sometimes they just use that as a political ploy. I want sheriffs to keep their oath of office. I want them to know and understand the Bill of Rights and to defend those against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to defend the people's civil rights against the incursions and abuse and corruption of Washington, D.C. bureaucrats. That's what we want.
And for a new sheriff just coming on into this, what would did you have a pathway of things that he could begin to, tasks that he could begin to take on that gradually gets him into what's going on?
Well, first he's got to get a little bit educated, and so first we recommend that he really be versed in the Bill of Rights. You've got to know and understand the Bill of Rights. If you don't know what the rights of the people are, how are you going to know what to protect? And then you've got to understand your oath of office. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution requires every public official to swear an allegiance to the Constitution. That presupposes that you're going to know the Constitution, and more specifically, the Bill of Rights. That's the supreme of the supreme law of the land. And then he needs to be familiar with this case. And if you wanted your sheriff to read anything, it would be this case and the county sheriff, America's Last Hope. It's only 50 pages long. You can read it while you have a cup of coffee and a donut, and it's a powerful education. The most important facet of all of this, though, is that he's working with his constituents and his people in his county, and they're erecting the barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. Then the constituents need to ask him, because this is what we recommend, that he put federal and state bureaucrats on notice that they're to check with him before they do anything in his county.
That makes sense.
Is that in the way of law enforcement, or how broad is that?
It could be pretty broad because we had to deal with EPA and Army Corps of Engineers. So it needs to be everybody: FDA, EPA, FBI, DEA, Secret Service. And the Secret Service has been in my county when I was sheriff for Pat Buchanan, when he was running for president. And so I'm willing to work with them when they're within their proper sphere of authority. But that's why the sheriff needs to check with them to make sure that they're not abusing the citizens in his county. And again, this is just another check and balance.
Right. Speaking of Secret Service, I don't want to fail to mention this. President Trump is going back to Butler, Pennsylvania on tomorrow, Saturday, the 5th of October, to hold the rally he was not allowed to hold.
Well, the Secret Service botched that whole thing. They know it. The American people know it. And I don't know what excuses they really have. But if I were, I said years ago that Trump should hire his own team.
Right.
I don't trust the federal government. And I know there's some good people in the Secret Service, but I also know there's some good people in the FBI, but almost all of them, to a man, they'll just follow orders.
Right,
And that's Nuremberg, and I don't want that here.
Right.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So I think it's hard to believe that this the Trump assassination where he got shot in the ear was just a
Fluke.
failure of what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I think somewhere in the hierarchy there were deliberate steps that were taken to reduce his security.
That is a natural assumption because of the egregious mistakes they made. They were just too stupid. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say? I don't want to.
I will end this with one more quote from my case. Justice Scalia, again, quoting another justice from another case, said this, but the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. Folks, the Constitution does not protect us unless you have a sheriff and other public officials who enforce it and who believe it and who cherish these principles upon which our country was founded. And the Founding Fathers' last sentence of the Declaration of Independence, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Today, folks, we must do likewise, and I'm asking each of you to join us in this holy cause of liberty and become part of this peaceful and effective solution to save America. We've dedicated our life to that, and we ask you to be part of that. We're not going to win this without you.
that is well said and a great way to end this, except for us to say thank you for your
Thank you,
service and
yes.
thank you for what you're doing with this order.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I really do, and it's a pleasure to work with you.
I'm still reporting from just outside the citadel of world freedom. Good day.